Welcome. This is the DNX Show. Thanks for joining us. We're here every Thursday. We're a show about domain investing. We talk about domain industry topics as well, but mostly about how to invest in domain names and hopefully be successful at it, which means profit from it. It's no fun to break even. It's no fun even just to barely keep your head above water, but that's much more, uh, well, much more can't even think of the word nice than not making any money at all. There's two hosts of the show. My name is Todd Ryan. My co-host is Josh Reason. I'm on the West Coast. Josh is on the East. Josh, what's going on today? Nice to have you here.
What's up, dude? Nice to be here. Appreciate you.
Thanks. We're going to get rolling. I had some topics, nothing everybody knows. You can go to dnxshow.com, check out our outline. It's just a guide of what we're going to talk about. Because I just switched. Josh, I just saw, I'm sure, think you probably saw it too. I saw Logan. We say Logan. We know him from the industry. Logan Flat sold to GenicIntelligence.com for $150,000. Made it look like it was just a buy it now. Now brought, of course, you didn't create the word intelligence, but as a domain investor, I never thought of, it's just so long, even though it's popular, but you always like that word intelligence. But was that a type of sell that would surprise you, even if it is long, but two good words, GenicIntelligence.com for 150,000?
Um, I think he got a good price. It doesn't surprise me. Um, it's obviously a pretty hot in terms of intelligence. That's basically the hottest term that you can think of, including the word intelligence. So, yeah, it makes sense to me.
Yeah, I know. And he said, yeah, like the AI names have peaked. And I was thinking to myself when I looked at it quickly, was it a .ai? But then I re-looked at it and said, okay, it was a .com. But I remember, Aaron, the gentleman who bought agenicai.com. I'm sure I know he spent $120 on that from what I remember. I know he wanted to probably get closer to 6 or 7 figures. I mean, for that name, but sometimes I don't know. When I see, it does make you feel better when you know names in a sector that you invest in or names near yours are selling. But it is like lightning striking. It's like you're sitting in a stadium and it goes boom. They pick the seat next to you that gets, a big gift. Check under your seat. Well, that's right next to you. That's not your seat. So sometimes I don't know. I mean, it's a little different analogy. Domain investing, if people do like you know, that industry is hot or that sector is hot, except, boy, it's like when it happens next year. I'm glad for Logan. It seems like he's had a great year or two these last couple years. He spends, not afraid to spend money on names, meaning a lot more than most of us will spend 4 or 5 figures on a name. So I know he has a lot of investment out there, but boy, that sure covers a lot of renewals. 150,000. I'm wondering if he had it on Boost. I'm wondering if he had the GoDaddy landers. Because if you don't, you had it on Boost and then you don't have the landers, that's the 30%. If you do got it on, if you don't have it on Boost and you are using the landers, that can be 15%. I believe that's how it works. So there's that wide range. But well, Josh, do you with regards to Afternic listings, tell us about, I mean, do you keep the boost on, and on what percentage of your names do you use Afternic landers?
I don't have the boost on, and most of my names have after Nick Landers, like somewhere like 95%.
Were you, I saw the names who picks the names for DNX, when you guys send out the newsletter? Because I look at it, I'm like, of course everybody wants to know that Josh picked them, you know? You like this? No, I hired some kid,
Hmm.
local college, never heard of domains. He picked Capcom for 9,995. No, who picks these names? Do you pick them, you and Leanne? I mean, a group of you. What's going on?
The last 2 months or so, it's been Leanne.
Yeah, I mean, It's basically you got to take some time, comb through, and try to find value. And I mean, there's good stuff on that newsletter each time. I mean, I'm surprised that you know I like to see the buy it now prices in the four figures for you know sometimes single words, but sometimes two words. Single word definitely another extensions. Lake.net 11,500 for about the .nets. What are you seeing there with regards to sales from your portfolio and then from your network? Are you hearing people sometimes they seem like yeah it's coming back, it's there's something there, and then people are like no, thumbs down, .net is dead. What are you feeling about the .net extension?
Honestly, there's a decent amount of people that buy .net um, on the investor side, but we also we've seen some retail sales, or even on DNX, some mid five figure sales for .net names. I think they still move. Um, yeah, I mean, it's definitely an investable extension. So yeah.
Yeah, that's just jump around. I did see another sale on somebody posted on Twitter. I believe it was today. WeFinancial.com 8850. Well, you're just hitting all the words that you've been talking about, huh, Josh? I mean, and you didn't, you can't make these things sell. So you were right about, I mean, just these two examples. Agentic Intelligence, 150K. We Financial for 8850. Do you think somebody, the buyer, and I know this is just guessing, We Financial, they probably bought it. Maybe it's an acronym, WE, or but just We Financial. Is that one that would have been on your list at least to register when you were going through all those financial names?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a good one. It's a great one. Yeah.
Yeah, especially
It
two
definitely
letters
would have
in a
been.
word.
I mean, I don't think it's probably not a. It's probably not an acronym. It's more likely to be. Um, More likely to be just a company that wants to call themselves We. Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at our outline at DNX Show. I had things on here from a few weeks ago that I never did get to ask you about, so they might seem a little stale to you. Some people haven't heard of them, and I never did get your response to them. But anyway, I was going to a post right now that you were, if you're new and think you know more than everyone else, bad news. Or when you post that, because a lot of new folks, it's not that they think they know, they can't sometimes can't help yourself. You start doing research and you start thinking, okay, I got this. It's like once you understand poker, okay, I understand. So that beats that beats that. Let me, I got it down. And then you just now you want to play. But do you remember why you did you read some posts, or do you just have some new investors, basically the less experienced investors, have conversations with them, and you just thought, you guys take it easy and learn, slow it down a little bit. What was making you think about newbies on that
I can't
particular?
remember. I mean, you see a lot of guys. Not a lot, but like you definitely see like once in a while, someone like pretty loud will come into the industry, spend a bunch of money, and then like talk about it as if you know they know what they're doing because they're spending a lot of money on domains, and then they kind of fall off the map a year or two later. You see it time and time again if you keep your eyes open. And the whole time they're the type of people that are just telling, veterans or people that have been in the space for, many years that they're not necessarily being disrespectful, but they're constantly disagreeing with like foundational investment principles in our space. And I just find it funny, find it interesting. Some people can't be helped.
Yeah, and like you said, keep your eyes open. We all know when we see. That's why I mentioned why some of us are like, this is what the shit we do. I mean, we might have a lot of us are in other businesses. Some really just focus solely on this business. I like it because I think good balance, like on a teeter totter with you and I, Josh. Okay, a lot of difference, of a lot of the same. I consider us both smart guys and smart ass guys too a little bit. But so I was on Name Pros. I was on a call yesterday and we were talking about, yeah, and 98, I think 97 to 97 when I first registered my first names. Yeah, of course, everybody knows it was Network Solutions at the time. I didn't even get in early. The early guys were 93 and 94, and you hear Costello Brothers, and I know Chad, and sending in, fucking applications for a domain name, and you didn't have to pay for them, but you had to wait to get a response via the snail mail. Okay, and then Network Solutions gets involved, and we're spending, you know, $70 for 2 years, and that was like, that's fucking great. So you got 2 years, $35 a year, and then VeriSign ends up buying it. It's at 2000, buys Network Solutions, buys the whole .com registry, and it was 21 billion back then is when they bought that. How that's just ungodly money. I mean, such an expense. But anyway, so then, watching around, trying to sell names, realizing, okay, I don't need them just for my use. Other people need them too. So then you want to start investing, and I'm buying and selling on eBay domain names, but then slowing it down a little bit, realizing, okay, don't need to really flip. Try to get some good stuff, and then going on Name Pros. Some of us, like when I say this is what we do, it's like if you're a runner, you play racket sports. Some years you might play more than others, but do go to the courts. You do play, and you'll probably be doing it in another 10 years from now. You did it 10 years ago. So some of us, like in the domain space, we know a lot of us are going to stick around. I mean, we're here. We don't come and go. We just like it, and then that's why I think some of us also have, it's not a right. It's just, and I don't always believe in, no, that person earned their right to do something. But so sometimes you get discouraged, or I get disenchanted with domain investing, sometimes because I just think, geez, it's difficult. I want to cash in like a poker player. And if I'm like just one of the guys, hey, so you see me every time at the tournaments, but I don't really cash in. It's you 10 guys over there, and I'm on the fringe. And it's like, yeah. Anyway, you want to cash in at this, but I was getting back to, some of us just have been doing this. We don't plan on. You can pretty much know we're going to show up to the running group whether we're in shape or not in shape. This is, we're part of the club. But I see a lot of people, just to sum up, yeah, Josh, in the last, since Clubhouse, because that's when a lot of people started becoming aware of each other in these, online, say, verbal, whatever, audio, social bullshit. Yeah, so there's people already have come and gone. But then I look in the audience here, and I see a lot of guys that I just met in the last 5 years, 6 years. They're still here strong, meaning, yeah, they're not going anywhere. They know there really is something in domain investing. And Josh, I posted, less than 100,000 of us worldwide. It's probably less than 50,000 for really, I mean, real domain investors. Somebody might have done it for a cup of coffee, for a minute. But what, I don't really have a question, but what are your thoughts on, domain investing? It not peaked, but there really is not going to be widespread domain investing. Do you think it's always going to be a small group of us? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think it's 100% small group. It's never going to be widespread. Um, People just aren't interested in it, to be honest. It's like, I was with a group of friends this morning, and you know, people have zero interest in what I do. They know what I do, but it's like the most boring thing ever for them. It's not exciting. It's exciting for us, but most people couldn't care less. In fact, it's just boring for most people.
Yeah, and it's not
So,
easy. And then some people think, nothing against you. It's like when I was, spending a lot of time, 15, many years operating businesses in the MJ space. People know, yeah, it's pretty cool. Of course, they like, users love it, to know somebody in the business, and they like to take advantage of that. I mean, I would too, but they know, that's not for me. Too risky. It's probably not. There's more to it than you think. And then some people think, it is it's like it's dealing drugs, and then with the domain stuff, it's like they think it is cyber squatting. It's not a up. It's not a business you can be proud of. Then they realize, some of us that are in it, they think, these are upstanding guys, and I'm saying I could reel off a bunch of guys I'm really just so impressed with that are just pure domain investors. One comes to mind, like Nat Cohen, and I really like Ryan Ewan, who I was saying, Josh, he posted about the ICA. I'll touch on that in a minute. But these guys who really they like it. They're businessmen. I don't consider them. They didn't come in to, like, you know what, I'm going to take advantage of trademark owners, and there's still, a lot of, especially in these new Web3 namespaces, you see that's where a lot of it always starts. They gravitate towards, trying to make money off somebody else's mark or targeting somebody. But anyway, so I think when you know people in this business, you realize they're strategic. They it is to me like professional gamblers, and I say that because in uh, in gaming and or in gambling, it does take, you have to be smart. You have to have systems. It does take a lot of your money, so it's not for the faint of heart, and you have to be really serious about it and focused about it. And it is not. I think it's, certainly, I'm talking about gambling and domain investing, um, and even offering. When I was saying cannabis, it can be morally okay, but it's a fine line. I don't know, in comparing those three things, but anyway, people have always given domain investors a bad rap, and I think we've almost, separated ourselves, the domain investors, from that. But as friends, know what we do, they still think, yeah, so you wait, you buy something and you wait for somebody to, pay you 1,000 times what you get. If anybody wants to join the conversation, come on up. You can see Josh and I are going to be talking about domain investing topics, events coming up, just anything related to domains. There's tons of news that happens each week. Some people think it's the same old, same old. To me, it's different. I'm going to talk about a couple, legal cases too. But Josh, wanted to ask you, not that you've been away from domain investing, you deal with a lot of other things, but when you do take a break, say you go on a vacation or you got other things going on for a week, and then you get back to your domain investing, what are the first things that you do when basically you've taken a couple days off? What are the first checks that you do? I don't even know. What is the first thing you do with your um, portfolio? What's the first things that you look at?
Um, you know, Probably go to my Afternic account and see if I've got a name on hold. Um, then go to my Afternic account and check the brokered leads and see if there's any in negotiation. And that's about it, dude. Um, you know, I mean, if you want to talk about like being a little bit more proactive and less lazy, I mean, you probably want to go and check and see what names you've got expiring that month, and then decide whether you want to renew them or not. Um, you know, I end up just having my rep renew all my names each month, and sometimes I look at the renewals, I'm like, those names kind of suck, but we keep them anyway. We keep them anyway. But yeah, I mean, like, listen, it depends what stage in your domain journey you're at. For me, I'm not desperately trying to add names to the portfolio, but a lot of this, the work is on the buy side. Like, if you're spending a lot of time in the domain space, like on this business, it's because you're spending a lot of time searching and hunting for names, going through auctions, going through the drop lists. Um, Private outreach, like that's the time consuming thing. Like, you could do that all day. Like, that takes a lot of time if you want to do it optimally. um that is a full-time job, but if you're not buying, shit's easy, right? You don't have to do anything. In fact, it's better that you do nothing.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like you're a store owner, but yet you're using Afternic network as well. But I'm saying you're like a store owner. You spend all your time making sure you buy good stuff, polish it up if it needs polishing, put it on the shelf. And people don't like it, but it is the strategy that's always worked is set it, not forget it, but make sure it's placed where people can see it. Just in the last few years, or I say probably five, now even the brokers are saying, "Hey, give us these names," and we do a lot of outreach. I really would like to hear, some cold calls from brokers. I mean, truly cold calls of, they get the responses that I know a lot of us would get, and that is, most of the time when you call somebody, say you're trying to sell a car. People buy cars when they need a car. You normally don't call somebody and say, "Hey, we got a great deal down here," and the person's like, you don't just cold call, you know, sell a car. Now, if it's somebody's like, "Hey, you've been waiting for this Silverado in blue, and you told me to call you when we got one in that was a couple years old, and you're the farmer down the street." So certainly, car salesmen have a book and they sell repeatedly to customers, but still historically, people buy cars when their car's fucking broke, when they fucking need a car. You don't really outbound a car. I'm not saying, I know there's exceptions. And I know, as a stockbroker, that was a whole different story. Yeah, we could call anybody, basically anybody with money, and we just qualify to make sure the person had some dough. And then they, or especially if they had invested in the markets already. It's not like you want to break somebody new, but of course, anyway, the point is, there's some businesses that lend themselves to outbound. Domain investing never was one of them. Okay. So, but we all know, when you own a portfolio of names, this name here would go perfect with that company. Why? Because that's their fucking name. Okay. That's one of the names in their current domain name. So of course you would think, and I saw somebody was talking about a name with capital in it. And I've had several before where somebody, was the the finance company or the investment advisor company, and it's like, we're, so and so capital. Uh, I'm thinking of what do I call my wife? For a long time, she didn't know what it meant. I can't even think of the word. But anyway, it's like when you do. I gotta think. Oh, honeysuckle. My wife's from Brazil, and honeysuckle's a flower, and Honeysuckle Rose was a great movie. But anyway, she always thought I was like, I was saying something offensive to her. But anyway, Honeysuckle Capital, and then the person's thinking, "I own Honeysuckle.io, and I don't know why they don't want this. They're on Honeysuckle Capital." They don't want your motherfucking name. Especially, like I was saying, a lot of companies, they like that they have the two word. Josh, did you see that post where, and I think it was Shane who said, "This isn't the flex they think it is." Somebody was like looking for a domain. They go, "Can you believe somebody wanted 150,000 for this domain name? Instead, we just got the name plus the word experts, or the name plus the word solutions, or some bullshit, for $12." And it was a long second word, but the person thought, who posted it, was like a business person who thought, "Look, we got this one for $12. That person wanted 75,000. Can you believe that?" Do you recall what I'm talking about there? No.
What was that? I
So,
can't recall now.
I need to look at Shane's post, because I think it was Shane who posted. But basically, he said that's not the flex they think it is. Where a business
Oh
person
yeah.
was, looking for their name, their company name, and they realized the domainer owned it and wanted.
Yeah, I saw that. And then he was like flexing that he got a shitty name for 1 cent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It was
Yeah, yeah. What a typical douchebag.
but that's how regular business guys are. They're like, "Well, I'll just get Plumbers Indio," like my name. It's like a fast plumbers and get it. They don't know. They think, "Can you?" Yeah,
Guy thinks it's a flex. It's like, oh, this guy wanted $1 million for his house. I just went and rented a shed for $5 a month. It's like, oh, good job, bro.
yeah. Well, I was thinking about, I do like those contests that where somebody says, and we'll do it in here sometime if we get some people on stage. You guys want to come up here and talk about domains? Motherfucking domains. Um, where I like when someone says, "Okay, I have this business. It's called blue, I don't know. Anyway, they have a business, and they're saying, okay, so here's my business name. What help me find a domain for it? And I like, and if they say I have a budget of $5,000, I mean, I like the idea of saying, I always believe that I can find somebody a great name that's still available to register, especially now that other extensions are more accepted. So, but, as domain investors, we like to think, yeah, but I'll tell you, for every time you save a buck on a domain name, you are hurting yourself probably, meaning, but not all names are priced right. So many times you don't want to spend $5,000 on a shitty name when you can really get an equivalent to this $5,000 name for $10. You can hand reg an equivalent two word, if you do some, do some searching. So, but, I was just going to say, many times with domain investors, we don't like to give people, here, don't spend your money on a domain. Go find something that is, less than $100. But I always feel like with anybody in business, I could help them get going without spending money on a domain name. Also, don't spend money on a bunch of lawyers. Don't spend money on a bunch of website designers. Don't spend money. I used to have a buddy of mine wanted to go in business with me. Very first thing he'd do is go like this. We want to go look at office space. Motherfucker, we got no customers. Go find, indications of interest for the product or the service. Get customers first. Well, let's work out of our car. Stop it, Max. But no, some people are like, you got to spend money to make money, and I mean, in some instances, it's true. Well, Josh, you said it was a couple days you didn't have some sales, and you were being sarcastic. Like, feels good, feels liberating, not to sell something for a few days.
Yeah.
What were you feeling?
What was I feeling? Just just being weird, man. Just being weird. Just trying to flip the script a little bit. Try and go on sales drought runs and convert the adrenaline that you get when you get a sale into when you don't get sales. It makes my life a lot easier.
Right? Like, I am pumped. I am pumped that there was
I'm
no.
pumped. I'm pumped. This is day 9, no sales. Let's fucking go.
Right? It's like you uh, reverse the universe. I see KW joined us on stage. It's very nice of you, KW, to do that. I really appreciate it. I wondered if you went to ICA New York because you're near there, but tell us what's going on. Nice to have you.
Hey, thank you. Yes, and I am still in New York City. It wrapped up last night. That's what I wanted to just jump in and see if you had any questions so I could fill you in on what went on.
Yeah.
I'm not
Okay.
sure if we talked
Yeah,
about it
how's
already.
Please.
yeah, fill me in on Ryan DeCourcio and
Okay, let me get to that part of my book. I write everything down, so you got to
give me
give me
the
a
whole
second.
story.
Yeah.
I'll
Just for,
look it up.
for a little bit of background. So, the KW, the only thing I knew was, okay, of course, there's the ICA event in New York, and then there was a foodie tour on Tuesday evening, and I know yesterday was pretty much the full day of some events. And KW is going to tell us. I don't know. Only thing I saw was I saw a picture of a lunch I was invited to on Tuesday that I didn't make, but boy, I sure missed seeing Nat and Zach. I like to see the guys in person and just laugh. I don't give a frig about
Sounds
just
like sounds like it was very vegan centric.
yeah, that's what. But okay, so the long story short, Ryan posted something today. It's saying he was just not happy with the event for some reasons, and I'll let maybe KW knows, but he just wasn't happy that he's not a drinker like me. He doesn't drink, and they had a cocktail night, and he couldn't even get a cup of coffee. And he basically said, "I spent 22,500 on this event, and no one would even accommodate me with a cup of coffee." So I like people that raise hell. But anyway, KW, what was your take? Give us from when did you head over there, and you're still there. Tell us, step by step,
Yeah,
what's up.
thanks. Well, just a bit is I don't have any clue of anything to do with what went on for Ryan. I just don't even know. So I can't comment. But I could say that I did get to the food tour, but I didn't get there until the entree portion. I sat right across from Nat, right next to Joe Alana. It was a really, really nice way to start out. It was a great event. And that night ended pretty quickly for me. I didn't hop. The one thing was, since it wasn't in like one place where everybody can all go to the same place without too much effort. Everyone stayed all over the city. In fact, like VRBOs, people had families, I got to meet people's spouses. And so everyone was all over the place. The event itself, I thought, and so did everyone else, it was top notch. It couldn't have been executed more brilliantly. It was so cool. There were so many things involved with it, and the both, of course, the most informative part was the one day, which was yesterday, and I went to everything, heard everything, and I could just like I can't tell you everything but that went on, but I wanted to tell you. I just want to give you a few things that jumped out, and then you could ask like where that came from if you want to. So, for instance, um, I have this here. One thing that was discussed was that here's it word for word. Google will be a prompt only. We're not going to be writing things into chat or searching the way we were in the past. This is talking in advance, of course. They're talking about implementing AI and machine learning and pattern matching, all with regard to the roadmap for the future of domain investments and also registrations. And then it was almost like as of yesterday, you realize there was absolutely no way you're going to be able to register enough domains to beat what the agents and the machines are doing currently. And this was stated by the top tech guys at Squarespace. So they were talking about how they're long tail domain names, but the machines are recognizing the patterns and grabbing them by the millions right now. So there you go. Do you want to ask a question about that? Like, I just think there's so many fascinating points that were made. I just wanted to like put it out there because some people, when you don't get to travel to New York, I happen to live an hour away, so it wasn't so hard for me to get to it. And I do always regret when I don't get to something and everybody else shares, so I always appreciate that. So that was one thing. I thought that was pretty unique. If you want to comment about that.
Yeah, well, how's the Squarespace office? Was it pretty cool?
That was fascinating also. Like, very secure. You had to have a QR code to get in. There was no way you were going to get in without it. I mean, even last night, the event that was a dinner at the top of One World Trade Center, we all went in. Todd Hand didn't have his piece of paper with the QR code to get in, so he had to wait for a while. But we all made sure he got in. And then you go up this, the elevator flying up, whatever, how many, like you're the top of the trade center. It was crazy. It was so beautiful and it was elegant and it wasn't a large group, and there were no speeches, so it was that whoever you sat with was who you got to talk to, and that was pretty cool too. Because I met more people yesterday than I have met in several different conferences, and they were domain investors. They
Honestly,
weren't just some companies.
I feel like I was there, Katie. I feel like KW. Sorry, I feel like you feel like I got the full experience now.
Guy,
Okay, good. Well, I do appreciate that you said that. Thank you.
guy.
No, I mean it's perfect for me. If I just get the rundown, then I don't have to talk to anyone.
Yeah, in KW, who was new there? And I do have some questions about, so the Squarespace guys. I'm always like, so you're the new smart guy, and especially now. I used to be the young guy. Now I'm the old guy. So I'm like, okay, so you're the new guy. You know everything, right? And then they'll say, well, it's not that we know it. This is actually what's happening. And these long tail names are like you said, getting registered by the millions, probably.
By the millions.
What does that mean exactly? These long tail names. I am actually interested in that. Like, what does that mean?
Well, KW, I mean, tell us
So
what
here's
they
what
said to you, and I'll tell you what I think.
okay. What I heard them say was that it was an anticipation of, as bots speaking, so the machines speaking with the agents, so the agents are going to be, watching us like in the kitchen or wherever else you are, and whatever devices you're using that connect to the internet will be interacting with us based on our preferences, And then these are going to be multiplied, and what they're trying to do is get everything around it, not just the one card, for instance. The take I had on it, and I explained it to someone that the way I felt like they were talking about it was, let's say you're a bunch of kids and you're down there on the street and you're trading ball cards, and you found your one best card, but now you go out there and you try to get the rest of the team.
How does
That's
that relate? What
Go ahead.
how does that relate with domains? What's the connection to the domain? Like, how does the long tail domains come into play?
Because people are still only going to read the words. We're not going to know what the machines, they're not going to spit out the digits to us. So, for instance, I took it to me like, there was something they said that made me realize this. Like, say you have a recipe and you only do it in Thanksgiving, and you need to order a certain, a food item from one place, and you need to have something delivered on a certain day. All those things that you're repetitively, you try to repeat each year, but it's only once a year. You don't need to do that anymore, because these agents of the where you live will have this all anticipated and recorded, but it's not going to speak to you in terms of, you know a, it's an agent to a machine. It's not so, and I can't interpret that, so I have to read words.
And the words are
Domains.
domains.
Yes.
Ooh, sounds like some domain fugazi to me.
I don't know, because here's where I'll take you next. Fully, fully, fully. I believe it was not confirmed that it's completed, but it's fully said in the very last session that Sato will not be the same owners in the future. They didn't confirm that a deal is completed. However, two very big players will be departing. And they also said out loud that it's very possible that the new player who will be Sato in the future was in the room.
Well, that's cool. So maybe Squarespace are buying Cedo?
That's what I jumped to.
Yeah, the new player.
Yeah. Hmm.
I think
And
it.
that's why they did a lot of talking about domains, and they were the ones. It was their tech leads who talked about, like, basically, you won't even be able to get names soon. The agents are registering them completely. Now, they did say that they had a vision that, for instance, I'm going to say who said it. So they will have a vision that at maybe at some point you won't even need to be, first of all, hooking up your domains. You won't even need to be hooking them up to websites at all. But in addition to that, the trend will be that domains will exist, but not in the form of websites.
This is all coming from Squarespace people.
This is what I heard yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah, but from Squarespace people,
Yes, I'll read it to you. Hold on.
I think
Yeah,
that
it was not coming.
my takeaway might be that Squarespace have zero experience in the aftermarket and probably don't actually realize how it works.
Well,
But
I took the microphone and I said, well, what are you going to do about USPTO and all that? And they said, oh, yeah, we're going to deal with that.
funny.
Hello. Thank you, Todd and Josh and KW. KW, thank you for sharing this. Could you give it a clearer example of a long tail? Like, for example, when you were saying for Thanksgiving, would you go out to seek turkey with cranberry.com or something like that? Could you articulate a little more what long tail means?
Okay, so I don't think that we can anticipate what the agents are going to register with the machines. And that's what they were talking about. That, yes, our domains have value, but okay, let me just get to this part for you so I can say it. Give me a second and I'll read stuff to you. Hold on. Can you guys chat
Yeah,
for a
we can.
second?
KW. Okay, so
Sounds like there was some serious fugazi going on. D3, Squarespace, all in the room,
Well,
just
there,
fugaziing around.
the bottom line is there's
Yeah.
two things going on. Of course, domainers immediately think, well, then it's going to. First, it sounds like so you're going to have names like Thanksgiving recipe Mark 12974. I mean, it's going to be like so names aren't going to mean anything to agents. Agents are just going to know, hey, there's if we need a domain, why don't they just use the fucking number? There's no reason to even connect the name because the machines don't need to read a name. They just need to read whatever digits. So if they're saying machines talking back and forth, then we know, all right, so then names aren't necessary. I mean, basically, good domain names aren't necessary. But then the domain investor is going to think, well, as soon as you get a human involved, my grandma, she's going to need something really easy to remember, like liberty.com. Okay, so they're thinking as soon as you get the customer, a real human involved, then names are going to be more hugely important than ever. I mean, I guess if they're saying there's going to be millions of names registered, and because of the agents are going to register, to me, I'm trying to think: are the registries or registrars,
The
or these
agents
people
are all
that
gonna
make
Todd, the
fortune? I mean,
agents are all gonna go to DNX and register everything.
why wouldn't they just have one name and then have sub names on there? I mean, just cut out all the expense of registering a domain name. Basically, put the registrar and the registries out of business. Not but why
But
wouldn't you
wait a
figure out a way?
second.
Go ahead.
Wait a second, Todd. And an agent can't register a domain name. They could give you
Sure, it could.
examples of it,
Sure, it could.
but you need,
An agent can
correct?
register a name. That's just a computer
Yeah, they
registering a
can.
name.
How do they register the name? Who is the registrar?
Well, I mean, somebody could say, "Hey, it's like just setting up um, I forget the word I'm looking for, but setting up
An
anyway a
agent
system where
that
you're
is given a budget,
just
like
saying go out, even if it's saying go here. I'm giving you instructions to register a domain name through this API or basically through this link, this registrar, and register. Of course, it needs to be available, and here's your limit or your budget. But I mean, basically, you're just giving instructions to a computer to log in, and of course, you could tell it when you create an account, and when you create an account, have this name, as the registrant, have this name as the account owner, and then there's going to be Brad. Now there's like DAO LLCs. I know we have one for Pay Now, but you're going to have entities that are basically that register the domain under this entity, and this entity is really not owned by anybody. So, you know,
So, but doesn't there have to be uh, a provenance of an individual who is the final word in it? You know what I mean? Because um, when an entity registers their name, suppose the entity goes out of business, or there's a fraudulent person involved in the agency, and it seems to me like that's something that the DNS was set up to protect. So the actual individual becomes the final word.
there's going to
But
be an
if
administrative
the
contact, right? So, but the thing is, will that's is ICANN going to require a registrar when you allow a person or allow an entity to register a name? They're gonna need to input this information, and would we allow administrative
a bot
contact? I mean, they're
can a
going to have.
bot be can a bot
Brad,
be a person?
both Interstellar and Unstoppable have systems today, right now, which allow an agent or a bot with your credentials and a wallet to purchase names using crypto, USDC specifically, USDCE. They can buy a domain on both Interstellar and on Unstoppable. Unstoppable uses ChatGPT, but they have an AI bot that can go out and individually buy the name. The credit needs to be in your account. Interstellar doesn't even need that. The it can use funds from any wallet to buy the domains.
So that is something very new, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah,
they said it
both are
yesterday.
launched in the last month or so.
I think at this point there's still a human connected to these accounts, but we know. I was just thinking there is humans. It's just like when you have a registered, one of these registered agents handle your business. You still have who needs to be served here. What person is connected to that entity, even though it still may be owned by a corporation. A domain name could be owned by a corporation, and we know a corporation is considered a legal entity itself. But then you do have people within that corporation that are the administrator, technical contact, and so on. Now what we're finding is you can have a bot be the administrator or the manager of the domain. A bot can be an agent, could be a technical contact, but yeah, I don't know. I need to do some.
This isn't like particularly crazy revolutionary stuff, right? It's just a smart bot that registers domains. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't mean it really doesn't change anything for us. I
No,
think
I
that
think
will
it does. I think it changes almost everything
no.
because
Why?
because just like what Todd was saying, there when it comes down to it, there needs to be someone who actually does the physical. Now, I'm hearing in
You
Ahmed
just
saying
automate.
that.
It's just automation, dude. It's just
So does it
automation.
make it ripe for fraud? I mean, because just think of how many domains an agent can register. It's kind of infinite,
Good.
But
right?
I mean, it's coming from someone's pocket. Someone's paying for it.
yeah, and there's like it's as Josh said, it's automation. There's domainers who've been doing this for obviously not as complex as AI, but they've been using automation to register domains for like a decade now, right? With
Yeah.
there's different tools and API access, and what comes down to is like it's still legally owned by a human or by a company, right? So it's not like the AI in question owns it on its own. Until the AI overlords take over, all AI is
No, but
basically owned
there
by
is
humans.
there is a system now where they allow an AI to set up an LLC. In fact, they've set up I think half a dozen LLCs just to get proof of thing, and they get the LLC, and the AI agent applies through the LLC. It's an interesting topic because the legal aspects I think Todd will be able to answer more.
Yeah,
But
listen, there's no incentive. There's no incentive for anyone to deploy agents unless they're getting something back from it. So they're owned by someone. All agents will be owned by someone.
You just follow the money, right? Josh said it. Somebody's funding it, so somebody's paying. Where does this money come from? And it does got to originate somewhere. And but that okay. So I just want to say, I don't know why the AI agents wouldn't think if we need a domain name, we're going to get one name. We're not going to register millions of names. That's why it would strike me as why Squarespace thinks so many agents would, if there's hundreds of millions of agents and every agent wanted a unique name, okay, so then there are hundreds of millions. But an agent needing millions of names, you would just get one name. I would be asking the agent the very first question: how can we avoid paying all these registration fees for different domain names? How can we use one inexpensive domain name and you get subdomains, create names off of that, where we want to keep the expense down to nothing, not looking to, make any extension, rich or, pay a lot of money to a registrar or to a registry. So that's what I'm thinking.
Is that what Squarespace is saying? Is that the agents are going to register long-tail domain names in the thousands or hundreds of thousands, put content up on them, and then they think that that will then be a method for delivering leads? Is that essentially what they're suggesting?
So pardon me, I not to answer this because I don't have the answers, but I wanted to let you know that the last both you, Josh and Todd, have just spoken about the part I was supposed to be looking for. So if I could just read exactly what I was able to write down, and if there are missing words, that's because that's how I read. So I have founding engineer, VP of engineering of domain search, and this was a Squarespace. Number one, it says AI, headwinds, tailwinds, changes, search based dropping plus LLM increasing. Then they separated it and started saying how to show up if you are a .com centric business. Short .coms have dominated until now. Will will LLMs favor longer, more descriptive domains? Number two, no, and they're saying it will. Number two, agent wrappers, which I don't even understand what that means. Agent wrappers will do, and then it says,
Agent wrapper is just when someone like customizes ChatGPT, something like
okay,
that.
so it says, will domains succeed interacting through computers? And then it said, number three, people buying domains. And then they were like talking about if it's consumers and what if it's OpenAI and Anthropic also trying to figure it out. They're all trying to figure it out and how it will change the products. And then I said two main interfaces. One is typing and search, and number two, generative surface, strong vibration. A domain is a primitive, continues to be the method agents minimize friction. Is there greater utility by expansion of domains?
Yeah, it's an interesting thought exercise. I think that it's interesting that it's coming from someone like Squarespace that hasn't been involved in the aftermarket at all up until this point. But I do understand what they're trying to say. I think it's reasonable. Um, you know, I don't, I don't necessarily subscribe to it, but I understand what they're saying.
So maybe you can tell me.
Yeah, but
I
maybe
mean,
maybe what
it's
Google is
basically what I
doing.
was just saying. They're thinking that agents could register lots and lots of long tail descriptive domain names, develop them out, and businesses or whoever's behind the agent is able to use them for lead generation. That's what I'm getting from this. The more, and they just continue to register more and more, have zero, basically a zero building cost. The cost is just in the long tail domain, and they think that by having thousands of those long tail domains, you're going to be able to monetize in a significant way that is maybe potentially more cost effective than buying, a short.com. Yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm getting from this.
So
Is that what you're getting from this, Todd?
Let's
I
hear.
think that's what I hear you. I hear you, Josh. I think I'm getting what you're saying from that.
Sure. I
They,
have
don't
some
know the
comments on that.
domain field, but they think that they can dominate that, and they don't really know, but they're trying.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're talking about doing something, they're automating something with builders that has already been tried and has happened over the course of the last 25, 30 years and doesn't really make sense. But, um, you know, I guess they're obviously obviously betting on uh, um, agentic search optimization as opposed to what people were basing their search optimization on today, which is typical your standard SEO. They're basically saying that like AI search is going to be different, which may or may not be the case. I think that's TBD, but I don't think Squarespace knows. They're just
Summit,
maybe.
I
what are
think
your
what they're
thoughts? Go ahead.
yeah, I think what they're trying to say is that the agents will be able to find these names better because of the descriptive nature. I don't particularly think, and with the what Google has come out with now,
Right.
SEO is essentially dead. Everyone's going to do a little bit of GEO, which is like put in an LLM.txt and leave it at that, so that
Right.
agents can access. But I have a
I
website which does about 500 visitors a month, human visitors, and that's done 448,000 bots visiting it this month.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, I think that I mean, I agree with you, and I do think that that's just not the reality, though. Why would agent search and discovery uh, not be conducive to the direction that things have been moving, which is essentially trust, content, and yeah, other trust factors, including who's behind the sites, what kind of backlinks are out there, all the kind of like trust factors that exist today are what the trust factors that AI is using when you're, searching for something and want to discover something. It's the same reason why, if you own domainbroker.com right now, and you go to, if you and you put a site on it, it doesn't mean that when you go to ChatGPT, someone's and say I want a domain broker, it's not going to suggest domainbroker.com just because that's the domain. That's just not how it works. It's still going to suggest based on trust, based on reputation, and however other many metrics they use in order to establish who is the leader in that space or not, which is why you see, well, you see stuff like media options pop up and then it says they were they were number one broker 8 years in a row and blah blah blah. You can't manufacture that by a long term, like long tail domain name. It's just not, that's not what's going to happen.
If anybody wants to join the conversation, come on. But Josh, I agree. It's almost like so basic what Squarespace was saying. And that's like, so when the internet first came along, exact match domains meant something. Google didn't even know what they were fucking doing. You put in a search for, you know, sailboat, anyway, some kind of product. And if you had that exact match domain name, it would come up. And then finally, Google got smart and realized, listen, just because you own, ceiling fans, if it was a brand new domain registration and you have no, really no authority, it's not going to just. In the old days, yeah, ceiling fans would come up number one. You search ceiling fans. That's no longer the case. And so, why they would think with AI that agents are going to register so many, millions of names. First of all, are domain names going to be why is my I was going to say, well, are domain names going to be more prominent or heavily weighted than subdomain names? Do they already know that? Because like I said, why wouldn't you just have whatever good domain name you wanted, one of them, and then San Bernardino plumbingpros.com. I mean, the point is to think that just going out and AI is going to be smart enough to know this other company, this other agent registered all these names, 1 million names, and they think we're just going to go to them because they have these exact match. We're way ahead of that. I mean, that's so I would say infantile, no, so juvenile. I mean, it's so
Long tail
ridiculous.
is not making a
Huh?
long tail is not making a comeback anytime soon. And
No,
like
it's
you
not.
said, agents don't need domain names. They can do an IP address just as well.
What was so there was a real life experience yesterday. We were talking with a client, Jeff Newman and I, and we're like, how'd you find Jeff? This was wanting to apply for a new GTLD, and this guy was sort of brand new to the space, and he says, yeah, because the AI said Jeff Newman works for ICANN. Basically, he was just joking around, but saying he was trying to find someone in the space, and because of the history and because of all the different posts and all the different pictures and all the different ICANN, basically not just ICANN, but all the different events and just the history, it thoroughly and carefully searches the internet and realizes, okay, so here are some key figures that in the space, and then not only did Google spit Jeff's name out, but so did Chat GPT. So I think that just from a super high level, of course, we think the AI is smart. AI is going to take in consideration everything. So all these newly registered domain names, well, all right, I think AI is going to go, we don't care if it's newly registered or old. We still want to look for what Josh said, the trust factor. We want to look for history. We want to look for, is it real? Is it, is there longevity to it? I mean, is it a real company behind it, real products, real services? And then when there are, how what's the quality behind those products and services? To think there's just going to be I don't know, a bunch of long tail names, descriptive names registered, I would think that doesn't even make sense to me, unless Squarespace, unless some people knew somehow that an individual domain name holds much more weight than a subdomain name ever will or ever can. And then I would think, okay, so now I can see why people wouldn't try to build too much on subdomain names. But we see now when you search certain terms, or whether it's for information or services or products, sometimes you'll find, okay, it's Amazon.com slash New Balance, whatever the hell. My point is, I just don't, I'm trying to gather, what, why Squarespace was thinking, you know, I mean, saying some of those things, but anyway, not being part of the room and part of that conversation. I don't know. It seems to me it's just basic stuff. We all knew, and I'll finish by saying this. We all knew that voice assistants certainly don't care if you're using one word Galaxy or Galaxy Capital Management. Okay, so if you just said go to Galaxy, there's dozens, hundreds of companies with Galaxy. If you're looking for Galaxy Capital Management advisory, the voice doesn't mind. They like when you put in, we all knew Google loved 3-4 word term searches. We can get real specific there. We don't want you to search weed. We want you to search in your area, and you're looking for a location or a delivery service. I mean, so we know multiple words can, be good, but then, we're talking several different things here. Because if you're talking just about a business that you want somebody to remember, that's why these single word short names have always been, are the ones that we see selling for, the big bucks. I don't know if anybody wants to, like I said, chime in here. What were we talking about? The
You know what? You could go into just the Google search box and put in a .com, and the results won't come up necessarily that .com. It'll come up with, like Amit was saying, it'll just get a term, and it'll search that term out, but it doesn't associate it with the dot with its extension immediately. So, you can have a long tail name, but it's only going to go for the, word or two that's relevant, not to the whole, word string.
Yeah, I have no idea what, Anyway, KW, so this event, in a nutshell, and I'm not going to put words in his mouth. I invited him here. I don't see Ryan here. He's from New York. Basically, Ryan was saying, I spent a lot of money here. He was listening to somebody who said they sold a $17 million name, but weren't really profitable from it. Do you recall who was talking about selling a name for 17 million? Do you remember that?
Me?
No, KW at the event.
Yeah.
Yeah, who sold a name for 17 million? Was there some session where Ryan said somebody was bragging about selling a name for 17 million? I thought it was one of the sessions. He said, and I'm assuming.
I did hear very many encouraging statements on sales and actually a lot of details on them. However, I missed one, and I guess it must have been that one. But the one thing I can tell you is that the part about it that I did get was that maybe that might have been the one that George Kirkos had, or however you say his name, had discovered and published. I did hear, there was I heard about a $7.5 million deal. That's the one that George had, uncovered and published, and it was regarding something with Andrew Miller.
Yeah, I almost remember that one too. George Caricos. He's the one always checking these. He owns freespeech.com. He gets real mad and of course you should. He gets mad when people don't give him the credit in this space. Like, hey, I did all this research uncovering it. I posted this name and said it was for $7.5 million, and then people just put in their blog, hey, did you see MC.com was sold for $7.5 million? Without, he likes to lead up the story and certainly wants the credit. And listen, the best thing to do is don't. If you're going to do the research, do it for yourself. Don't share it. People are going to fuck with you, and there's some people in this space who are doing it over and over. Without giving, credit to the person who found it and then sending links to their site and so on. I think Bethany Frankel got in trouble recently for not, I'm just bullshitting about the housewives. You want to argue that someone doesn't give you, credit or post your link. But then I don't know, if you got two things to do. You can, yell at them like George does, or, like how Rick Schwartz would post Hall of Shame, or if you got a lawsuit, I don't know, sue somebody. Other than that, just whine in public. But I don't know. Ryan brought up that he was just he was just disenchanted with the event. Said he spent a lot of money, was there, and it wasn't about not getting coffee. It was about hearing somebody talk about selling a name for 17 million. They weren't even. He said something about not they weren't profitable on it or something, but just basically bragging. And he did mention they were getting the pictures taken, and that made
He
me
said
think Jeff
70.
Brooks.
He said
You know,
70 million. He was talking about Larry. He was talking about Larry with AI.com.
Oh, 70 million. Okay, so I cut 17. So all right. Well, but Larry was just the broker. Now I
I'm
like
sure.
I like all these guys.
I'm pretty sure Larry didn't do it for free, so I don't know where he got that from.
Sure. And yeah, and anyway, those were just the brokers involved, and it sounded to me like, yeah, Josh, the buyer and the seller, he certainly made out, because we know he bought it for 7 million or 6 million or 8 million. Remember, we knew that whole thing. I remember when it was priced at like 11 or 12 million AI, and I think it was Saw that was selling it, and then they said, hey, it was available forever. And then finally it sold, and everybody's like, oh, it must sold for 11 or 12 million. No, we knew it didn't sell for the asking price. And I was always guessing 6, 7 million. I think they end up saying it D3, excuse me, like 8 million. They said 8 point, who knows? But it was so under 10. And then he had this big sell. I hope John, the buyer side broker, and then Larry, the seller side broker, um, both, that made out fantastic on that. But I don't know. I'd
Yeah,
like to go ahead.
I'm sorry. That was a fascinating part to hear about, and I can't say that there wasn't any part of the conversation that seemed like there were any kind of bragging or anything at all. It was like just sharing really good information. One part of it was about how um, they had to wait 20 minutes and had no idea where the domain was. I mean, because of the process, there was no escrow used on this deal whatsoever. And actually, that was kind of a theme that was discussed a couple of times, that people not even using escrow. And what else was said on that particular part of this story of the day? I remember specifically thinking it was funny because Braden kept asking like 10 different ways, like, tell us about the commission, tell us about the commission. And Larry refused to share anything like that, but it was funny. It wasn't done in a poor manner in any way at all.
Yeah, he did something similar. Braden was at D3 talking with Jeff, Larry's son, and then John was there, so Larry couldn't make that event, but they tried to get the fees out of him. It was very limited. But and then they said, well, the attorney's involved, and then John Berryhill stepped in and said, no attorney. There was one. It was John, and right, I guess there was the guy said, transfer me the name, and they did have a legal agreement, some sales agreement, but still no escrow. So transferred the name, transferred the money, and but I guess John Berryhill was the solo attorney that was involved in it from I don't know which side had hired him or whatever. But
Yeah.
I think I read that it was actually sold in April, and they didn't announce it until recently. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I think that was said something like that. Yes, there was a time period that they didn't discuss it.
so anyway, AI.com big sale, we know, and the domain space, we of course we love it. Come on, when I'm going to AI.com, where's it even go to? Just nothing. Claim your handle. Did I? I think I went and claimed a couple handles there. So still, I remember, yeah, when that, and then of course it was down, and everybody said that was probably strategy. Who knows? Fucking silly. When it's the big dough, listen, you're not invited to the party, okay? So there's such big money out there. Bought this name. Is it going to make that? The company was already successful. How is it going to impact them? Well, it sounded to me like 70 million is not much to them anyway. Is it going to help their business or hurt their business? It's so I don't even know. It's almost like an individual, well, I guess it's like a CEO. They make about that money. Certainly, a CEO can help lead a company in the right direction or the wrong direction. But I just don't know if this name is you know, it's not that it's not worth 70 million. It's just no
So
big deal to them. 70 million wasn't much money to that company that bought it.
so Todd, one more thing I did write down about that sale, that Larry said was that they did not take the highest offer, and that as a result of the news article regarding, I think, the AI domain name, Larry said that he had already also gotten three billionaires all had already directly contacted him as well regarding that domain.
Yeah, so right there brings in a really important point about the amount of money that is out there. And like, for example, they just sold a work of art by Jackson Pollock for $185 million. Okay. That's not going to be used. It's going to go into a storage, and they could do this maybe with a domain name. And 10 years from now, they'll bring it out if it's a relevant analogy or not. But the fact that someone just bought $100 million piece of property with nothing on it. There's so much money out there. We're like in a whole different level of buying and selling, and the expendable income that we have. It's true, Todd. $70 million is, like paying your monthly car loan or whatever.
Yeah, let's get to some basic domain investing, like back to selling names
Okay, well,
for.
let me just say one more
Yeah.
thing, Todd. I own AIify.com. AIify.com. That's about as close as you can get to just AI.
I remember. Yeah, and that's like I know when I owned NFTT, and Samit always used to bring it up. But Todd sold that overnight. Yeah, I sold that wholesale. So retail was worth 100 grand, 50 grand, maybe 30, maybe. But anyway, but still one letter off. NFTS sells for 15 million. NFTT sold wholesale for 8,000. But yeah, so
No,
AIFI,
that's
you might
true.
think
That's true.
AIFI.
It
How
means
about AIFY? Now you're getting closer. AIFI, but I know you're like AIFI. When it's your name,
right,
I know you've owned that for a while. But well,
right. And
what's
I
your price
sell. I
on it?
get.
What's your price?
I don't. I don't have a price, but I've gotten a number of inquiries, and none of them were even five figures.
Yo, so you would sell it for five figures. Well, let's get right
No,
to
no, I
let's.
wouldn't. I'm just saying,
Oh, six
no,
figures,
I
seven
haven't
figures.
gotten anything
Well, a
close.
lot of us just price the thing. So I'm going to tell you what I would price it at, and you think, oh no, that's low. But Josh, what would you price AIIFY.com? You got to price it as a buy it now, and you know, you don't. There's no research.
I'm open.
Yeah.
I'm
What
listening.
would you do, Josh? And then Arif, I look forward to hearing what you and KW and me, and then Sama would do, and then I'll tell you what I would price it at. Buy it now. AIIFY.com.
AIIFY. Is that two I's?
Just like you got two eyes right in the middle of the head. Yeah.
AIIFY. Uh, doesn't I think we've talked about this before. Doesn't it mean something?
Well, IFY means being, the act of being. So it's like Shopify is about shop, Spotify is about music. But if you look up the suffix IFY, it is an actual meaning dictionary suffix.
Yeah. I'd probably price it at like 25K.
I knew you were going to say, I thought that. Arif, what would you price it at?
Oh, it's exactly the number I was thinking. But I'm also going to say that those two eyes in the middle of your head, as you said, Todd, it really hurts it. It's not like it doesn't compare to Shopify, although the saving grace is that it is AI. But I think the likelihood of a sale is yeah, the two eyes just make it hard to make it pronounceable anyway.
Well, what number would you give it? You can take it.
No, as I said,
I'm gonna add a
I
zero
was
to
being
it.
generous with the same number as Josh. 25 was exactly what I had in my mind when you asked me
I
to
bet
fund for my.
KW is going to say double that. But KW, what do you think? AIFI.
So yes, actually, my first thought was 20,000, and then I said to myself, you know what? After what I heard yesterday, I would not because of what you guys are saying, with the spelling and all that, but I see it as something to do with I fly instead of I and AI beginning it in the beginning. So a lot of people can't say the letter L. So I would use it as a typo, and for that purpose, I would go up to like 35.
Yeah. And Samit's like me. Samit's going to go between 15 and 25 grand because we'll sell off a family
If I
member
can
for
get,
a little.
if
What do
I
you think,
owned it
Samit?
and I could get 7-8 grand for it, I'd take it. The double I kills it. Also, it's a question of variables, right? AIFY.com, I'd shoot for the moon. I'd ask for 150 and probably sell it for like 75 plus. But AIIFY, just take what you can get and count your blessings, honestly. Again, that's my take on it.
I appreciate that from all you. Thank you. Those are all realistic and help me get centered on it.
And still, you can list it
Yeah,
for 75 grand, and that's still not out of reach. Or you know that, and that's why I said I know Brad can take it. It's like, hey, we have him come up here in a shirt that he designed, and like, anybody like this shirt? Would you buy it? And we're like, looks okay on him. But the point is, it's like people are going,
can I ask about a domain?
yeah,
Todd?
Wait a
yeah.
second. I just looked up AIFY, and it's on Brandiverse 675,000
Yeah,
for
tweak
Yeah,
it.
but you can ask for
AIF.
anything. Yeah. So last year, I picked up VeraBrain.com. And yesterday, NVIDIA announced its new CPU and they're calling it Vera, VERA. So Vera Brain becomes a fairly AI forward. And Vera chip itself is an agentic chip. So it's meant for agentic work. So I'm interested in knowing what you guys think they should be priced at, given the NVIDIA angle.
Well,
It's not because
congratulations, Amit. That's awesome.
I picked it up with brain as the core word, not Vera, but it flipped.
Well, do you want to hold on to it, or do you want to sell it right away?
I'm willing to sell everything right away. I'm not going to live forever. I'm like Todd. Someone wants to buy my whole portfolio, make me an offer. But in any case, what would you price it as? I'm going to moonshot this one for sure. I actually have already priced it, but let me know what you guys think it's a good price on this.
I like your old pricing. I like your pricing from yesterday, as opposed to your pricing today.
Amit, could
you can actually
could you
see that
spell
on
the name?
DNX. Right?
Vera Brain.
Yeah.
I just registered aloe vera brain, so I'm gonna go with in cocoa butter brain. That actually sounds good. Cocoa butter brain. I'm gonna name one of my horses that. A Vera Brain. Well, there's such big brain sales, But Vera Brain. Now that you got it, yeah. When you say moonshot, I would still I would go high, and that would be 19,888. I don't know. When you say moonshot, what do you mean? 80 grand?
No, he's got his moonshot right now is 188,000, but yesterday was 10.
Yeah, yesterday was 10 grand. Correct.
I like 10.
I love it. I love it. That's great.
But that's the name of the game, man. Like,
Yeah.
one day it's 1K, the next day it's 10, then suddenly it's 200K. That's the world we live in.
Yeah. Let me ask.
No, you see Logan sale, 150K for agentic something.
And
Great purchase.
yeah, that's a drastically better name, though, unfortunately, to say.
Absolutely.
No, but listen, NVIDIA could love it, and that's nothing to them. So
NVIDIA's never going to buy VeraBrain.com. They're never going to buy that.
you never know, but no one knows. They might think that that's a good launch.
So here's the thing. Okay, we never know, but the probability of them buying it is like 0 point a few zeros something percent.
It doesn't
Which
have to be
means
NVIDIA, Arif. I agree with you. NVIDIA is
yeah,
very unlikely to buy it.
yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's not a horrible name, right? Like, I mean, sometimes the usage of one word. I mean, Vera is not a bad prefix, right? It's not a word, but it could be short for verification, or
No,
it's
Vera is a dictionary word. It comes
Hmm?
from ancient Greek.
yeah. But I'm saying it's a good word. Well, it's not an English word, but it's still good. Like, it's good, 4 letter. It's a good 4 letter. It's not random 4 letters, right? I think this is very good. But like when you combine it with brain, it's still good. But the probabilities of a sale, it drops off significantly, not to zero, right? It's still a sellable domain, I think, but it's brandable. That's long shotish. But you put it on Atom or Brand Bucket, and they showcase it. There's a good chance it might sell in that venue randomly. Otherwise, like just Afternic or your own personal lander, I think it's a more of a significant long shot, but not zero, right? But 188,000, I think there's too many other much better alternatives that somebody could buy for 188,000 to compete with that. So I think 10K is more of a
But given the whole, I understand what you're saying. I agree with you 100%. But there has to be a fraction of your portfolio you have to moonshot, given the news.
oh
It might
no,
never sell for 188K, but it sets
it's
a
not. It's not. It's not
price.
the fraction. It should never be a fraction. You should price your domains properly. If a fraction of your portfolio happens to be domains that should be priced at that price, then yeah, then it's a fraction. But it's really, you got to go with what the quality of the domain is, right? And you ask yourself, what are
But
the alternatives? At that price
given
point.
that it's an agentic CPU, it's by NVIDIA, it's being used by all the top companies. If you see the tweets by NVIDIA yesterday, that's actually how I caught it. And I caught it like
So
22 hours after they posted it. So
that's
it's
what
not
could be
like
wrong. If Vera has new meaning to do with AI that's used commonly, then yeah, then the possibility of sale goes up significantly, and the price you could pay, you will
but you have
can
Claw
get is
domains
significant.
selling all the time for 50, 70, 100K. And Claw isn't as big as NVIDIA.
But
Again, you got to try it.
who would think that Anthropic would be a good domain name?
But we're talking the AI stuff. We're talking categories like look, OpenAI, or what's the other one is like, it's just, those are horrible brands, but the product is so game changing, world changing, that people are going to go to it because the product is outstanding, right? Well, it's world changing, so people are going to find it, right? Sometimes the brand, as much as I hate to say it, sometimes the domain or the brand is not as important if you have a product that you just can't keep on the shelves that people just want to consume no matter what. Now, having a good brand is important in most cases, but I mean, OpenAI could have come out on any domain they wanted to, and it would have had all kinds of traction.
Yeah, but
Right? Just
usually
because
I think it's a great name for one. Open. It's like open cart, open anything that is open structure.
uh,
So you can see why they used open and even open sea. So people within
I
that space think, when there's these
you-
what?
you're not wrong. I just made a mistake. I meant to say Chat GPT,
Yeah,
which
and
is a horrible.
adding that GPT was weird there, but yeah, we know like chat and like in the tech space, agentic to me, okay, so it's a new word and it's popular. But I don't think that type of word is ever going to be popular, publicly, like across a lot of different sectors. But it gets so popular in one area of business. I'm trying to think of, especially with these data companies. Um, there's certain words that are just so popular in the tech space that they do that the companies within it still feel they're valuable, even though as domain investors, we realize, I don't know if that's going to cross over to, the general public, if it'd be very popular. To get to just some basic stuff here. Okay. And I was saying basic domain investing where people, we brought up Ryan earlier, and I like that he posts sales. He's got does do $1,000 a day, I guess, but these sales for $99, $299, $499. None of the big guys that he talks about, it has relationships with too, would ever think about selling names for such low prices. It's almost just like a waste of their time. But yet he, thinks it's really worthwhile and a strategy. And I think and it's just difficult, but there is something there. I think most of the sales are under $5,000 just across the board. So to not address that market as a domain investor is really, not I would say dangerous, but I say risky. But then the bigger investors that we know, they would never touch anything. I guess Josh, you were talking about earlier about your renewals, and you have your rep just like mine at the end of each month. Okay, renew these names. Now I still go through and names that I've registered 15 years, and then a couple years ago I thought I don't want that one anymore after 13 years, but I still kept it, and then after 14 years I still kept it. Now it's 15 years or 16. I'm like, nah, drop it. Finally, drop it. When it comes to two things, are you dropping any? When you go through those names, you said you weren't dropping any, but tell us a little bit more. Are you dropping any at all? And secondly, do you ever sell names under $1,000? The $499, the $299. Does that ever happen? Out of your portfolio?
No, basically not. Unless unless I am planning on dropping some, then I might move some to like 995 or something. But yeah, I'm not really planning on dropping anything. So, although if this 7 day sales drought continues, I might drop it. Might drop it all. Fuck.
Yeah. All right. So you're saying that now, after you did that experiment last year with registering those names and you dropped some of them, you pretty much have your portfolio is just, you're happy with everything. You're committed. It's just renew this month, renew next month, 6,000, 7,000. I don't know what you got in the portfolio now, but those are all worth the $10 or more
Yeah,
to renew.
yeah. Listen, all of the stuff that you see that sells every day is the kind of stuff that I have in my portfolio, to be honest. It's like you talked about wefinancial.com and keywordintelligence.com. Those are the kind of names that I have. So yeah, if I dropped most of the names, if I dropped them, they would get bid up in auction at this point. So just gotta keep them.
Arif, are you still going in that direction too? Basically, each year you got more names. These last few years, I know it's been that case. More names than the previous year. Are you still going in that direction, or are you pretty much plateaued?
I got quite a bit going on these days. So I went last year from end May to mid September. I acquired about 1,100 domains. Since then, I think I've acquired 3. And that was just because I was experimenting a little bit with the $1 sort of auction thing. I just was tinkering with that. But no, it's just it's a time factor for me. As Josh mentioned it earlier on. That's what's great about this business is that if you're inbound only, you can take your foot off the gas, and it's 1 or 2 hours a week just checking your emails and replying to a couple of requests and whatever it is. It's great in that sense. But I haven't stopped because I want to stop. At some point I do need to figure out what I want to do. Do I want to keep on growing, or do I want to trim a bit? Both options are viable. But yeah, I probably will tend to grow a little bit more. I'm having a really good year this year. My sell-through rate hasn't really gone up much, and over the last few years might gone down a scooch, but my average sales price has just gone through the roof. I think I mentioned a few few weeks ago, I sold another domain for 10K. It was a French.co. I'm like, it was one of those ones, I think I got that one like in 2017. I'm like, why am I holding on to this? Why am I holding on to this? And it's like all the domains I keep on telling myself, why am I holding on to it? Like, for 5 years ago, I said I was going to sell 800 domains at what I consider the bottom of my portfolio. And every year I sell multiple domains that I consider the bottom part of my portfolio. So I'm happy with my portfolio. Last year I dropped, I don't know, maybe about 400 domains, but I acquired 1,100, right? And I think that 400 was like, I still have some that I might need to drop or whatever it is, but it's such a small amount that it's like, it's just rounding errors. And I'm happy with the way things are going for me overall. It's fairly consistent in terms of overall, growth. I keep on saying I don't want to get exact numbers, but more or less double my cost year over year, and excluding my acquisitions, which just is basically just reinvestments, right? Like right now in my war chest, as you want to call it, I have funds. I have more funds than I've ever had before. I've I'm at the point, like you guys know, at one point I had previous other things. I had a import export thing that didn't go well because the sort of half partner kind of died, and I was in a deep hole for the longest time. And I'm at the point now where I've despite even having money in my war chest, I've pretty much paid off all my debts aside from my condo, obviously. But yeah, so I mean, domains have been amazing for me, and I have with less debts, I can really figure out what I want to do. But it comes out of time. Like I do want to flip over a little bit and start getting a little bit higher in quality. And I did last year. Last year I started buying some domains at auction and stepping into the three figures, which doesn't sound like a lot for some people, maybe like Josh and others. But considering I was almost exclusively closeouts and $5 and $11 closeouts more than anything else, it's a step in the right direction. And I've sold some of those domains, right? One of my other 10K sales this year, it might have been a 15 one, was one I bought for $300 on auction, right? And I hadn't even listed it yet or priced it, right? It was just an incoming thing from was it GoDaddy? Not Afternight, but the GoDaddy. When they pay the what is it, $120, or now it's $12 or whatever it is this week. A GoDaddy buy service, right? They go, "Do you want to sell the domain?" I'm like, "Well, okay." And then well, what price do you want? I kind of just gave a price, and it's like, okay. I pushed back a little bit and a little bit of negotiations, but it's I'm really happy where things are going.
I think a lot of investors do what you've done. You start making some money, you reinvested in more names, and you've done that. And it's like, Eric, you know the analogy better than anyone. It's sort of like, all right, you're at the crap table. Things are going good. You've taken a little bit off the table. You tipped her nicely, very nice. And then when I paid for your meal out of your stack, and then but you got more bets out there than you've ever had. So you're all on the table. You got the hard six, and now you went a little crazy. You went ahead and did the hard 10. I mean, basically, so you're all over the place. You don't, even if you crap out, you got enough on the rail. You're still ahead of the game, but you haven't left the table, and that analogy. So it's like at some point, can need to take some of the stack and really separate it from the table so it cannot be lost. I mean, I'm thinking more of UFO.xyz. I don't know if he's in the crowd, Renee, but he's done, built his portfolio of say 10, 11,000 names off of his successful investing, meaning making sales, taking the money. So you're really just, you keep, you're writing it there. That's why I would say sometimes the jury's still out. And I know Josh understands this too. Big investment in the domain space. He puts a lot of invested there. You can't liquidate real fast. You can liquidate if you have good names, not for those lower prices, but it's just not a fast turnaround to move into domain investing and then move out of it. So it's almost like once you move in, you really need to have a strategy. Be patient because you can't move out very fast.
It's that initial scaling up that's really I wouldn't say challenge. Like for me, it went okay, but I think that's where a lot of people kind of fall out of it. Because sometimes increasing your scale isn't as easy as people think, right? Like, I mean, for me, back when I was really buying, like consistently, I was buying like 5 packs for closeouts, right? So saving $1 per domain back in those days at GoDaddy. I think I still do it now, but anyways. But yeah, I was buying 5 or 10 domains per day, right? But if you want to grow faster, like when you go to 15 or 20 domains per day, you got to realize that that number 10 or number 11 through number 20 are going to be lower in quality, right? So sometimes scaling up for the sake of scaling up isn't that necessarily a good thing. But again, it really depends, right? There were days when I could have bought 25 domains and they all would have been like, fall into that sort of quality level that I, was acceptable for me, that I considered, okay, yeah, it's going to be, at least $3,000 or 1% sell-through rate, which is what, that's the threshold you need to be profitable, right? Because it costs you $1,000 to renew the domains per year. You gotta have at least 2,000 is cutting a little bit close after commissions, and you want to consider your time a little bit. But again, it's never exact, but you have to have a good idea of where things round off here and there. And for me, it worked out. But I also understood domains from a long time before, and I knew marketing. And again, like I mentioned it before, there's a lot of attributes that aside from learning about domains, there's other separate like life attributes or life sort of experiences or whatever you want to call it that could also tend to make you better at selecting domains in certain categories. And I don't consider myself an expert in any one thing, but I do consider myself knowledgeable enough in a broad range of things that I can have a nice portfolio that's not focused on any one thing, and it's still, I think, I consider it quality, right? It's not the best in the world, but at the price point I bought things for, I think I did pretty well, and the performance is for me, it's great, right? But like compared to guys like Josh isn't here anymore, but I can't see in the room, but like he puts more time into it and he does a lot more effort into searching whether the SLD is a profitable one or not. And the result is I don't know what he makes, but I'm pretty sure he more than doubles his money. I'm pretty sure percentage wise he does better than I do year over year, but he's putting more energy into it and more effort, and that's the way it should be, right? And he's smart about the different categories, and he's not afraid to go up in things. For me, I deliberately kept myself in the lower tiers because I could grow progressively. It wouldn't cost me much. And, again, because I had other debts previously. Now I don't have that fear anymore, right? Now I've paid off my debts. It's so strange. Now I'm like, I have money sitting there waiting to buy more domains, and I just don't have the time for it. But yeah, so I don't know. This year might be the first year I cash out a sizable amount, but we'll see how it ends. I mean, just because I had a few good months at the start doesn't mean it's going to end that way. I always have recent years, it's only been, I think, year over year, maybe only 1 or 2 months where I didn't make a sale. Whereas, consistently more and more, I've had sales, multiple sales per month. So, it's, it all rounds out to be something really good for me. I wish it for everybody because it's not that easy. I mean, ask people below, how many of you down below have had 3 profitable years in a row in domaining, right? I'm pretty sure it puts like a thumbs up if you had 3 years in a row that you've been profitable in domaining. I still don't see. I think there'll probably be a few, but
Yeah, we're going to only go on another 10 minutes. I was going to say, yeah, on speaking on behalf of the people that aren't making sales, let me pull up. I was going to pull up my spreadsheet's closed, but anyway, I'm never going to leave, the casino lower than I started. That's what I'm talking about, domain investing, because I've, although it hasn't been very profitable the last couple of years, meaning, anyway, I've spent, probably close to 1.4 now, 1.4, and I've sold maybe 2.3 million. after all the fees, I believe it was still 2.1 or 2.15. And now I got 1,000 names. Let's say 11,000 bucks a year. Because mine are .com. I don't have any. I got a few others. Treason.ai. Who the fuck would want that? Machismo.ai. I got Kathy.ai, but Cathi, like my mom spells it. I got a couple 3-letter .ai, but I got maybe 6 AI, I think. But the point is, so if I go for another 10 years and I just don't have any sales, only renewals, I'm still going to make it out alive. I'm going to make it out profitable in domain investing. But it was because of a few great years, of only, and I say only, say $300,000 to $600,000 in revenue, and I'm not counting those ones I sold a couple years ago. Those big, sold a few $100,000 worth of. Basically, just got my money back on some 4-letter. I'm talking about 2014 and 15 before the Chinese thing. I sold some stuff, and I say the Chinese thing is when 16, 17, 18, when I really sold a lot to the Chinese market, my short ones. And then even after that, I did pretty well in 19 and 20. And then when everybody else started taking off, 20, 21, and the whatever it was, the COVID thing, mine, I don't know, I was doing okay, but petering out. I have all my numbers, but the point is, I just am like, feel like I'm leaving, the party, meaning, I don't want to, I'm not looking to invest in domains as much anymore. I think it's more difficult than ever. I think, we're going to go another 10 minutes. Yeah, Josh is out of here. It's just more difficult than ever. There's, I don't, all the talk about the agents registering names, fantastic. I know it's not going to benefit domain investors. That's how I feel. I really believe that. So now somebody's going to say, but single words, they're going to continue to go up. And, I hope, I know not all the brokers are making enough money to fucking pay their bills. All these brokers, especially buy side, sell side, there's so many more brokers than there ever has been. So the top guys, of course, they're doing well. But still, there's more brokers than ever. Most of them, a lot of them went away, went out of business. But a lot of them are, I can't say struggling, but they're not breaking the bank. They can make more money off of Shopify. I mean, the point is, so I just think domain investing more difficult than ever. I don't know if it's just been, I have such low overhead on these names that, low cost basis that maybe I sold 30, last year I think I sold $60,000 worth of stuff. I probably had, 20,000 in expenses. So maybe I sold 65. I'll get the numbers sometime.
What was the last year you bought more than 100 domains?
More than 100?
Yeah.
Oh, well, a few years, maybe 4 years ago, when I bought a bunch of meta names, or maybe or I bought a bunch of pay names, like with people's names, paybrad.com. I think I just let that expire. I like pay Rita, pay Meg, pay this person. I like pay, just trying different things that, and I actually sold a couple. It's like I sold a couple meta, but then I just said, no, it's not, now do I want to renew? Yeah. So a couple years ago, I bought not hundreds, but in the last time, Arif, was the free stuff. I got Unstoppable, $500 worth of free, names there. So I picked up 80 names last year that I didn't pay for. So no, I'm not adding. I'm going lower. And it's not that I saw some guys posting online. I'm assuming some people, listen, I just don't like the negative. I was $30 on fucking Kalshi. I want to fucking shoot my neighbors. Okay. So I'm like, I just grew up that way too. We didn't have any money. My parents, fortunately, they're still around. When they die, there's nothing coming to me. It's bills. Okay. So I've always been like, you have to remind myself, because I've had good times in my life where $20 is still $20. I went to the Dollar Tree yesterday in my $800,000 car. Yeah, it's a fucking McLaren. I'm just kidding. Anyway, the point is, so I cannot take, I don't like not doing well at domain investing. Uh, um, I just don't think I know most people don't even make money at it. And I'm no better than the average person. So I'm like, I go to the casino, I walk in just like everybody else, and I think, this is stupid. I mean, it's not even fun. And most people don't make money here. So that's how I feel about domain investing. That's why I always compare it to gambling. That most people, or poker, most people don't make money doing it, and I'm I've already had some success at it, and now it's, I think, more difficult than ever. And yeah, I don't use all the different tools. I've shifted to do exactly what I want to do, and that is making money off the business. Like I said, working with the lawyers, working
Yeah.
with doing writing a contract anyway, making money, still. And I like the business, and I still like talking about the business. I just feel like there's so many folks who they don't feel comfortable saying, yeah, listen, I did spend 10,000, 20,000, 30, and I really haven't recovered hardly anything. And now I've done it for 5 years, for 8 years, and it hasn't worked out for me. I'm still here because I like the business, and I still own some names. And I feel like, although I've spent over 100,000, and a lot of us have over 100,000, some getting close to 1 million, you feel like, but I have this portfolio of names, so I still have the opportunity, still have the potential to make my money back. But there's just, the only people that want to, I was going to ask people, hey, come up here. We're only here for another 2 minutes because I'm going to shut this down. That, hey, come up and talk about a sell you had recently. Well, then people do like to come up and go, yeah, I just sold this. But I like to hear the realistic part of it. That, yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm very negative. I'd like to hear, the person, but no one really wants to share those things. And I totally get it. It's like, listen, it's like somebody saying, I've never made any money my whole life. I've always struggled. But I'm not asking about their whole life. I'm asking just about your, your involvement in domain name investing. That's why I wouldn't take. That's like if somebody said, and Eric, you know this, if you said, hey, just about gambling in the casino, and you asked all those people that come in, you said, tell me your experience just in the casino. There's going to be some people who say, I've never won. I've never been successful in the casino. Uh, my dad's spent so much money on lottery tickets his whole life. See, I've never really had anything worthwhile happen there. I would say that's definitely more common, and you know that in a casino. So it's more common in domain name investing too, but
Yeah.
yet no one really
I,
wants to share that stuff. And I just think it's hugely valuable because it brings everybody back down to earth thinking, hey, so we all are, trying to do some difficult things here. Most of us aren't successful, and we're not telling you to leave the group, but people just need to know the reality of this thing. Go ahead.
where that really relates to the casino analogy with domains is that in a casino, you ask for somebody, are you winning overall or losing overall? They'll change it. They'll flip it, right? They'll say, oh, I won really big this one time, and da. Same thing. Like I sold this one domain for a huge amount, but like, are you profitable? And then the answer is often no, right? So again, it's not exactly the same analogy because in domains, your skill level, you're not. There's no set. The games aren't fixed, right? I don't mean the casino games are fixed. I mean the percentages are long-term statistically, right? Whereas in domains, there's a lot more controlling factors that you can have. You can have more than a 50-50 chance in domains if you do it properly, right? So it's not necessarily the same gambling, although there are percentages and statistics involved. It's individual for each person. Sorry, I cut
Well,
you off.
it's certainly a risk, you know. But I wanted Todd, I wanted to say thank you for sharing what you were just sharing, and what you're validating is most of the success that you've had is from names that you bought earlier, right? And that becomes, I own names from early as well, but I have not made my money back. I'm still hopeful, but what Amit did is, for a new domainer or for trying to keep up, he picked up a word that could become, uh, a widely used word, and he combined it with another relevant word. This Verabrain is a perfect example of, being alert and relevant and trying to make it happen in the domain space. Because I agree with you, it's tough and it's getting harder. But you have to be, proactive in the in your perception of what could be unfolding in the future.
Yeah, Josh, before we close it down, I wanted to give you a last. Next week I'm going to share my last couple of years. Haven't been real successful. I really feel like this. I'm like this one gentleman I knew that was a professional basketball gambler. He for really about 5 or 7 good years, he was making just unbelievable amounts of money. As a system, a computer system, he was really, just a professional gambler. Only gambled on NBA. Well, eventually the system changed. He wasn't doing well anymore. Borrowing money, it wasn't working out. The times had changed, and yeah, now he's living in fucking Georgia. Still he saved enough that basically he sold the big place and had to move out of California. But I sort of feel like that's my domain investing career. It's harder than ever. Fortunately, I still have some stuff with low cost basis that I know I can. I'm still have sales, but to tackle it now, it's just not something. I feel like an old runner. My prime domain investing is behind me, and I know there's not an age limit on domain investing. But I was going to bring up some of my numbers next week. I don't know what you heard before you jumped out, but any final comments for today and just next week? I was going to talk about how difficult I think it really is for new investors.
Yeah, I mean, Todd, the reality is that you're not alone. You're with a huge amount of other people in what you're saying, and it's true. Um, the difference is that you talk about it and openly talk about it, and other people are either in denial or, you know, actually a lot of them are just completely delusional. Um, and even guys that are at the top of the game, um, I would say that I would consider myself fairly high up the top of the totem pole in terms of domain investing, and even I see that things change quickly, and it is not easy. Um, and things could change, and we've talked about this before. Things could change really, really quickly in a very short period of time. Talking like the next 2 years. So if you're not able to if you're not able to be profitable right now, I can tell you that the traditional domain strategies that we've talked about for years on end are not getting easier. They're getting harder and harder and harder. So if you're struggling now, you should probably think about conserving some cash and looking for other opportunities.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. And you're right. I look forward to talking about this next week. And that I'm never, it's sort of like I enjoyed going to parties after and going to bars and shooting pool after I quit drinking. I love casinos now, even though I consider, the small gambling. So I love domain investing because I know there is this special, there's trends, there's new things that change. There's always going to be some, great things. I always believe to register new trends that you can jump on. Now we've heard about all this AI, these agents registering millions of names. Boy, that sounds like it's going to make even that more difficult. But because there's always new technology, new words, new popular stuff that happens, a lot of us I know I don't need to, be, years faster than most people. You just need to be a couple minutes faster when it comes to registering names. But anyway, so yeah, I have a, like I say, shift in how I'm going to invest in domain names, but I'm not, certainly not leaving. Always keeping your eye. I mean, I love the business, and I know there's opportunity for those that are forward thinking, and that I certainly think I am. But you know, and then anyway, from these rooms, we learned a lot from each other. Okay, so that's going to be it for today. Thanks everybody for being here. Of course, we're going to be here next Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific. You know what? Yeah, I got to reach out to Josh. I think I might have some things I need to do a little bit next Thursday. But anyway, so be here, DNX Show next Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for all of the people that share. Look forward to talking with you here on Spaces anytime, any other place too. But enjoy yourself wherever you're at for the rest of the day, rest of the evening. Take care of yourself. It's not letting me in because for some reason my screen, I can't get up to the end. Oh, there it is. See ya.